The state concerned about incoming revenue, Barnstable is prepared on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Wednesday, November 28th, 2012. I'm Sarah Colvin. Barnstable's Director of Finance, Mark Milne, says a recent report is pointing towards a downfall in revenue for Massachusetts.
The Secretary of Administration and Finance has come out recently and has informed the Local Government Advisory Commission that the state's revenue projections for fiscal year 2013 may have to be updated because they're running about $250 million short of what they originally projected. It's still early in the fiscal year. I think the state has a sizable rainy day fund. I think it's in the over $1.6 billion in the rainy day fund. I think that's the third largest in the country. But there is. I think I'm more concerned with whether or not this would be a systemic problem going forward. That the state has perhaps overestimated their recurring revenues and going into fiscal year 2014. What does that mean? This year, in fiscal year 2013, they're going to be looking at measures that they could implement at the state level to perhaps revise these revenue estimates and what they can do on the expenditure side, or perhaps using some of that rainy day fund surplus to address this issue. In the past, when they've had problems like this, they've used the rainy day fund. They've implemented cuts at the state level, but they have also, which is where I'm going to be watching closely, is implemented what's called 9C cuts, and that's where the governor authorizes reductions in local aid for the current year. State has been very good to us in the past, and they've tried to do the most they can at the state level in trying to hold local aid cuts, or trying to prevent local aid cuts from happening. But there have been a couple of times over the past 10 years where they've had to implement that strategy to help with the situation. But I don't think that's going to happen yet. I'm more concerned with, I think we have to watch closely the federal government and what it does with this looming fiscal cliff, because if a solution isn't reached in addressing that, that's going to have major ramifications to every state across the country, and then that'll trickle down to every local government. And I think that's more concerning to me than what the state's situation is right now. I think part of the state's situation right now is a result of the uncertainty of what's going to happen at the federal level. So it's putting a little drag on business, I think, and that's what the secretary has been quoted as saying, anyways. And so perhaps people are just being cautious because of the federal situation, and that's affecting state revenues. So I think we'll know more next month when the state will update everybody as to what their plan is to address this issue, and we'll have a better idea of what the federal government's going to do to address their fiscal cliff issue.
But Milne says not to worry. He's not concerned about any drop in local aid for fiscal 13, but he says being prepared is the best defense.
That's why, we have the policies in place, the financial policies in place that we do to protect ourselves and to try to maintain our service levels in the event that something like the situation that is possibly looming here comes to fruition, and we need to act. And so, being prepared is the best thing you can do for for your financial situation, just like you would for a weather emergency. Being prepared, proper preparedness is the best solution to to the event that's occurring. So.
Exactly. Well, can we talk a little bit about, just to go back to talking about the state as we started our discussion about kind of estimating the revenues for the coming fiscal year? Of course, here in Barnstable, we deal mostly with property taxes, some with the excise tax, which fluctuates a lot depending on, cars, et cetera. But in the state, they've got the income tax to contend with. And of course, that has a lot to do with employment in people's jobs. So it's got to be a little trickier on the state side to kind of arrive at that estimated number.
Yeah, budgets that heavily depend upon sales taxes, income taxes, are much more difficult to manage in the sense that those revenue sources are more unpredictable or more volatile than a property tax, because the property taxes are essentially close to 100% collectible, because if people don't pay them, there's a lien placed on the property, and the lien, those property taxes will get paid eventually through a foreclosure process.
Right.
But with the income taxes and sales taxes, that's an indication of business. And if business is down, those taxes aren't going to come in. And if employment goes up, unemployment goes up, those taxes aren't going to come in, and you can't recoup those. The only way to recoup those is through increased business, and so that's at the state level. In the federal level, they're much more focused on creating business, creating jobs, creating consumerism, because they want people to work so we can collect income taxes, and they want them to spend their money so they can collect sales taxes, and so that's a much more volatile situation that they have to deal with, and which makes their planning for emergencies even more important, in that they maintain a good reserve policy and flexibility in their operations, so as to implement procedures to address any shortfalls that they may have on the revenue side.
Indeed. And then, so, just to go back again, as of right now, you said you're not really anticipating that we will see any of these 9C cuts coming up this year, correct?
Well, if I'm not throwing out a warning right now to get ready. They're coming, because I can't say with any confidence yet that is absolutely going to happen. This is 4 months through the fiscal year, 1/3 of the way through the state's fiscal year that they have this, they're $250 million behind. That's about 1% of their budget, and I think they have time to recover. We have the issue at the federal level that's going to be addressed, and once that is, the state has an opportunity. They have 8 more months to turn their situation around. And they also have an opportunity to draw upon their reserves, to make cuts at the state level and hold local aid harmless, which they have done in the past under similar situations. And so, they've been good to us in the past. I have every reason to believe that they'll at this point in time hold local aid harmless again. I have seen no indications yet that they will definitely implement local aid reductions in fiscal year 13, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, so we just need to keep that in the back of our minds that it could happen.
Mark Milne, our Director of Finance here in Barnstable, joined us on today's episode of Barnstable this morning. You can, of course, watch that online at town.barnstable.ma.us. A reminder for our viewers, 5 new topics of discussion are now live at Barnstable iForum. Check it out, sign up, and join the conversation today. We're talking about things like, how do you dispose of your household trash? What do you think about the proposed problem property ordinances? A discussion on the Recreation Commission's recommendation for repairs at recreational facilities around town. Lots of stuff to talk about, and you can share your thoughts 24/7, 365 online at barnstableiforum.com. You can email me at btm@town.barnstable.ma.us with questions. Again, that's barnstableiforum.com. With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.